We are back now on the show to continue on with another interesting set of statements from Kyle Shanahan. He appeared on this week's episode of The Athletics podcast called The TK Show, and he made an appearance this week talking about a plethora of different topics around not just his team, but prior moments that he's had to deal with in his career, with one of them specifically being trading DeForest Buckner and how that has led into now the similar situation that they're facing this year with trying to pay all their guys and trying to keep this roster, trying to keep this all-star roster really all together. It has been tough, and he references DeForest Buckner as an example, also talking about Brock Purdy. But the most interesting one was this Bill Belichick story that I came across. This was posted a few days ago, but I wanted to come on here and talk about it because of just the hypothetical possibility that this could have been a reality is nuts to think about, is nuts to even consider that Bill Belichick could have potentially joined Kyle Shanahan, because that's what he said. He revealed that he had serious interest in bringing in Bill Belichick at some point this offseason, at least as his defensive coordinator, just because it's obviously Bill Belichick, and he explained it in this statement I had here for you guys. Basically, Kyle Shanahan went into it saying, I threw it out to him. I can't believe he's not a head coach of a team right now. I know what I would do if I was an owner, so that shocks me. And the last thing you want to do is insult someone like Bill Belichick, but I know he just loves ball in its simplest form, so I threw it all out to him, whatever he wanted to do. And he even asked Bill about it. He went up to him, he approached him, he asked him if he wanted to join his staff, but Bill, very nicely, he said, very appreciatively, turned Kyle Shanahan down. And like most people know, it's not like Bill Belichick's just not going to be doing anything this offseason. He's actually going to be appearing on the Pat McAfee show a lot during the regular season. He's going to be on the Manning cast a lot as well on Monday nights. And also he's going to be on Inside the NFL as well. So he's definitely keeping busy, definitely still being involved in football. But this was something else. This was something that I wasn't expecting, that could have been anything, because nothing was said about this. Everything was kept pretty quiet. And, Bill Belichick, whether or not you like him as a head coach, whether or not you think that he was going to still have a future in the NFL after he left the New England Patriots, and there was all those reports about people not wanting him being power-driven, wanting all the control. You throw that all out the window. You can't really argue with the fact that Bill Belichick is one of the most renowned, successful football figures in NFL history. So the fact that he could have joined this juggernaut of a team is mind-blowing. And you can understand it also from Bill Belichick's standpoint. Like being a defensive coordinator is probably something he would excel at. He would be fantastic at it, especially with all those weapons that they have on the defensive side of the ball. You pair him up with Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bosa, all these guys that they just have at their disposal. It would have really been unfair. And you always say it every year, like the 49ers are the clear favorites to at least make it to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. But with Bill Belichick on that team, I don't even know how you could have stopped that. With him and Kyle Shanahan on the offensive side of the ball, it might have been the most powerful, most just creative two minds working together, the most creative duo, calling plays on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball as well. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. I would have loved for it to happen. It would have shocked everybody, the potential that this could have created for the 49ers to finally maybe slay the dragon in the Kansas City Chiefs if they saw him again. But even in past comments that Bill Belichick has made, he has even said that being a coordinator is one of the best jobs in the NFL. And the fact that he had this opportunity shocked me that he didn't take it, but all the reports say that he is still looking to be a head coach, and that desire to not, give up on that, really, it seems like he's going to jump back into it next offseason, and I'd be shocked if he is passed up on again by all these teams. Like there usually is looking for a new head coach. It could be the Giants. It could be the Jaguars. It could be maybe the Bills or something like that. That could be looking for new head coaches along those lines. So I feel that he's going to have an opportunity, but for him to turn this down, I was definitely shocked. I didn't think Kyle Shanahan would offer it to him, but obviously after getting rejected by Bill Belichick, they promoted Nick Sorensen to be their defensive coordinator and also hiring Brandon Staley, the former head coach of the Chargers, to be an assistant on that defensive side of the ball. So the potential was there. The hypotheticals are always going to be there, but super interesting to see how Kyle Shanahan, approached that situation with Bill. But further along this interview, Kyle Shanahan continued, and he went into a topic of going over one of the biggest decisions he had to make in his coaching career. He explained how having to trade DeForest Buckner to Indianapolis in 2020 was, in quotes, one of the hardest things he's ever had to go through, and that he really didn't want to get rid of DeForest Buckner at all. And you could obviously see why. DeForest, for everything that he did with the 49ers, and then just continuing that success, getting paid with the Indianapolis Colts. It's no secret why you'd want that guy on your team. But he mentioned how he almost had to do it with what they were trying to build as a team, thinking long-term, thinking into the future. It really just came down to how many players they could get for DeForest Buckner if they weren't going to get to a contract extension with him. He didn't want to get rid of him, but at the end of the day, they were able to keep Eric Armstead, which in hindsight, he is gone now, but he did provide you with some good for the 49ers. He was able to keep Jimmy Ward, and they got a first-round pick over it. So, yeah, it stinks. Yeah, the 49ers have been so good for so long, but it hasn't come without making some extremely tough decisions, and they get a lot of credit. They should get a lot of credit for making those tough decisions and still staying at the top of the mountain, but it almost leads into what they are still facing now, currently in this present day. And Kyle Shanahan, I thought, had a good quote that kind of sums up everything, that, sums up his mindset with going into some of these contract negotiations and trying to keep this all-star roster together. He said, "I want every player on our team to make as much money as possible, but if you do that, only one guy is doing it. Only one guy is going to be able to do that." So that's as simple and as real as it gets, honestly, with these teams trying to work out everything, trying to crunch the numbers and seeing how everybody fits in. Not everybody's going to be happy. Like I mentioned, they already traded DeForest. They let Eric Armstead go in free agency now, the longest tenured 49er on the team. Those are hard decisions that they have to make, and now they face the same thing with Brandon Ayuk next offseason. Potentially Debo and him coming towards the end of his deal, Diamador Lenore as well. These guys that are pivotal pieces, someone's going to have to be the odd man left out, and it's going to stink, but still giving credit to the 49ers and how well they've kept this ship afloat. I think they do deserve their flowers for that, but I thought it was interesting him referencing back to DeForest Buckner like 4 years ago now, and then still being in the conversation for one of the best teams. They still face the same problem probably over the last 4 years now with trying to keep everybody together. So it brings up the question about this Super Bowl window. How long do they have before they at least get one Super Bowl? Kyle Shanahan doesn't have the best records in Super Bowls right now. So hopefully, with all these tough decisions that he's had to make, you'd hope that he gets at least one Super Bowl in this entire window that he's had to work with, because it would be very harsh, I think, if he doesn't get any reward for managing everything that he's had to go through. But that is still to be seen. And the last thing he mentioned was discussing Brock Purdy's looming contract extension, probably next offseason. Basically summing it up, like saying that it can be overwhelming. You look at some of these big contracts and you start thinking, some coaches start thinking into the future, and that it could be overwhelming, thinking about, if Trevor and Joe are making 55, what's Dak going to make this offseason? What's Tua going to get? What's Jordan Love going to get? And then next season, like, that's going to be awful. That's going to be a lot of stress thinking about how much Brock Purdy could make just to fit into the market. So he said it could be overwhelming in that sense, but also it's all relative. He takes into account how it affects the salary cap, but delving into specific quarterbacks and seeing how much one is compared, or how much one is worth compared to this other guy, how much one could be better than this other guy making more money. He really tries to stay away from all of that and focus in on how much this quarterback that he has on his team, Brock Purdy, how much he has contributed to the success, to being a leader, how much has he improved since they drafted him. And he takes all those factors into account more so than trying to fit him into the market price and seeing if he's better than Jordan Love, if he's better than Dak. Should he get more money than Trevor? Should he get more money than Joe? He doesn't really dive into that. He keeps it more in how much he has helped their team. And I think that's a fascinating way of thinking about it, just because, again, he's dealing with all these massive contracts, and you have a lot of players, Christian, Nick Bosa, Kyle Juszczyk, Fred Warner most likely, making top of the market price on all of them. And then the quarterback, now that it is coming up in the near future, he's also probably going to make top of the market price. And it can get to a point where it almost boils over a bunch. It could work out very negatively, not again to, dump on the New York Giants, but that situation, how they handled everything, was almost what you don't want to do. I don't want to make it sound bad on the Giants, but they definitely didn't handle it as accordingly. And Kyle Shanahan now handling all the contracts that he's had to deal with now with a quarterback coming up, it's going to be tricky, but I feel confident in just the history, the experience he's had over the last 4 years of doing it over and over and over again, that it could be something that could work. But again, you feel like there's going to be an odd man left out. And is that going to be Brandon? Is that going to be Debo? That's all, to be determined at this point. Trent Williams is also another one looking for a contract extension, looking for a reworked deal. More things piling up on the 49ers, and it's almost not a miracle, but it's almost remarkable just how they continue to be, through all these challenges financially, office-wise, that they are still able to put out a great product on the field. The expectations are still there regardless if they lose all these players or not. They are still considered to be one of the best teams, so no one's going to feel bad for them if they go out there and they don't perform. That's what comes with being a good team, and hopefully they can figure it all out, because they definitely add to the spectacle, to the entertainment of the NFL. So that's what Kyle Shanahan had to say on those topics. With that being said, we're going to move on to the second half of the show now. 2 more topics to talk about. Zay Flowers mentioning just the main area of his game that he wants to improve in 2024. And we're just going to go through a quick round of contract updates of Matthew Judon, Alvin Kamara, Amari Cooper, and Matthew Stafford on where they are with their restructured deals, and who is looking for potentially an extension going forward. That is all coming up after this break. Don't go anywhere.